Hey everybody, today on Northern Revolutions, I'm going to do a video that's inspired by Jeff Witcher, who did a video a couple days ago on the first record that he ever bought from 5 of his favorite bands. And I thought it was a great idea. So I'm doing my take of that today. So stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to Northern Revolutions. I'm Rob. Welcome back if you're returning. Welcome if you're new. Today I'm doing a response to a video from fellow VC member Jeff Witcher. He did a video a couple days ago where he shared the memories of the first record he bought from 5 of his favorite bands. And I mentioned in the comments that I thought that was a fantastic idea and that I'd have to think long and hard to see if I could remember the first record and the circumstances around buying that first record from some of my favorite bands. So I'm going to give it a shot today. I'm going to leave a link in the description to Jeff's channel and specifically that video. Check it out. He's a great guy, knowledgeable as hell about records and entertaining. So please check Jeff out if you haven't already. So let's get into it. Obviously, the first favorite band for me, can you guess what it is? Of course, I talk about them all the time. It's the Beatles. So I think I probably talked about it in my very first Vinyl Community video about my record journey, and I've probably mentioned in other videos how I got started in record collecting was because of my dad. He was a big record collector and a big music fan. And when I went off to university, and I say went off to university, I moved 10 minutes away because I went to university in the same town that I was born and raised in. When I moved out, I took with me my dad's Beatles records, with his consent, of course. And I took a few others, some CCR and some stuff by the band and some stuff by Fleetwood Mac. I sort of pillaged his collection to start my own. So I'm not including any of those. I'm including records that I actually purchased with my own money. So, I mean, my first Beatles records, which I took from my dad, were the White Album and Abbey Road, with the Beatles, which was a Canadian album. Live at the Hollywood Bowl, I think that was it. So the first Beatles record that I remember actually buying myself, I had them all on CD, but the first vinyl record was Help. So where I bought this, when I was in high school getting into the Beatles, which would have been 94, 3, somewhere around there, there was a great little record store in the city that I live in. It was right downtown. It was about a 5-minute walk from my high school. And the downtown in my city is the city I live in is 200 and some years old. So the downtown is old limestone buildings and it's pretty nice. And there's this one little side street that goes off of the main square, and there was a tiny little music store there called Music in Orbit. And I think that was our only record store aside from the couple, nationwide chains that were in town, like at the mall. And I used to go to Music in Orbit all the time. I used to skip class and go. I'd always be buying music. And the first one I remember buying there was this record. This is a Canadian stereo first pressing of Help. It is in absolutely immaculate condition, considering that it is now almost 60 years old. Um, I loved the song Help, and I knew a couple of the other songs here. You got to remember, I was just getting into the Beatles. Um, Little did I know that later on I would think that the North American version of this album would pale in comparison to the British one, because it is quite different. It's a soundtrack, not a studio album. But nonetheless, it has the songs from the film. Um, so this was the first Beatles record that I bought myself. I now have all the Canadian first pressings of every Beatles release, stereo and mono. I almost have all of the British first pressings. I've got all the modern stuff, the anthologies and Live at the BBC and all the remasters and everything. But this was the one that started it all. So my next most favorite band is a band I've talked about before, um, Blue Rodeo, legendary country rock band from Toronto, hugely successful in Canada. They're legendary. They've been around for 35 years, 36 years, whatever, but largely unknown outside of Canada. I got into them in 2000 with the release of this album, which is The Days in Between. I do have it on vinyl, but that's not the important part of the story. I get into these guys because the lead single off of this album, which was called Somebody Waits, was in heavy rotation on Much Music, which was our MTV. And I loved it, and I thought, this is cool. I sort of like that country rock genre, and I didn't think I was. I didn't know. I knew who they were, but I wasn't familiar with their material. So I had picked that album up on CD. Wasn't technically available on vinyl, but it's a promo only. That's a whole other topic I've talked about in another video. But I had that CD, and I wanted to get more of their catalog. I was at a record show and digging through, those cheap $2 bins that the vendors keep under the table, and I came across this. This is their album Casino, which is their third album that came out in 1990, and I grabbed it because I liked the current album at the time that I was listening to, and in fact I had tickets to go see them because they were coming to play a show in my hometown within a matter of, I don't know, like 3 weeks or a month or something like that. So I said, I need to get more acquainted with their catalog, and I bought this record. It's a great record. The first song off of here is a song called Till I Am Myself Again, which to this day is one of their most successful songs, one of their biggest hits. And as soon as I heard it, I'm like, oh, I know that song. And there were a few others. What Am I Doing Here is another one. Like, yeah, I know that one too. And so this is the first record that I bought by Blue Rodeo. I mentioned in my record journey video that when I was discovering music was when I was in my mid-teens. I was in high school. I was dating a girl at the time who was a huge U2 fan. And as I was getting into the Beatles, she was introducing me to U2. I loved Joshua Tree and all those sort of things. The first U2 record that I bought was Achtung Baby. This is an original. I bought this because her and I we were in Toronto for something. This would be early, 92, I think, something like that. And there was a very famous record store downtown Toronto on Yonge Street called Sam the Record Man. If you're Canadian, you know about it. The most famous record store in this country. Sadly, no longer around, but it was a landmark. Anyway, we were in that store, and I was looking at stuff, and they had this. And I liked a few of the songs off of here. I remember that my girlfriend had made me a mixtape, because that's how old we are. And it had a couple songs, Even Better Than the Real Thing, One, and Mysterious Ways, and Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses. All four of those were on that mixtape. So when I saw this, I'm like, I should get that. She said, absolutely you should. Achtung Baby is incredible. So I bought it, and this is one of the greatest albums in my collection. I love it. I listen to it all the time, and I'm very lucky to have an original pressing that I bought back in the day at a landmark record store that unfortunately is no longer with us. The next one is a story I've mentioned before, but it's germane to this discussion. Another one of my favorite bands is Fleetwood Mac. The first Fleetwood Mac albums I had were Rumours and its predecessor, the second self-titled Fleetwood Mac, or the White Album, if you will. And I had taken those from Dad's collection. The first Fleetwood Mac record that I bought was Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac, the self-titled release. Now, the story behind this, that same girlfriend and I were in Europe on spring break. Her father lived in Switzerland, so we went to visit him for spring break, and we went up to London, England as a family, me and her father and stepmother. And while we were there, I went into the Tower Records at Piccadilly Circus in London, and like kid in a candy store. It was incredible. The only record I bought there was this record, and I didn't buy it for myself. I bought it for my dad, because Fleetwood Mac was my dad's favorite band, and he didn't have this and had never seen it. I had never seen it at home, at record shows or stores or whatever. So when I saw this is a Simply Vinyl repress from, I don't know, early 90s. I bought it for my dad and gave it to him as a gift when I got home. And then when he passed away 13 years ago, I kept it. And it's still it's been opened, but it's still in the original Tower Records sleeve, and it still has the original Tower Records price tag on, and I paid £16.99, whatever that is. I have no idea. But anyway, the first Fleetwood Mac record that I bought wasn't for me, but it was the first one that I bought. And lastly, another one of my favorite bands is the Eagles. I didn't get into the Eagles until around 2004 or 5, maybe. I don't really know how that came to be. I remember being at a family get-together with my guitar and my cousin's boyfriend. He had his guitar, and we were playing some songs, and Take It Easy was one of them, and I wasn't aware at the time that was the Eagles. I'm like, oh, okay, that's an Eagles song. And I guess how I started to get into them, I guess. And one of my best friends at that time, her name was Kim. She was a big Eagles fan as well, and it seemed to always be playing in her car. And I guess that's kind of what got me into the Eagles. That's when their greatest hits came out. So I bought her the greatest hits CD for Christmas. The double one from 2004 or 5, whatever it was. And she bought me the same one for Christmas. Well, that sort of summer, I was at there's a local antique market in a little town just a few minutes outside of the city that I live in. It's sort of an outdoor antique market. And I was walking around, and there's various vendors that have records, and I was flipping through a record bin and saw Eagles live. And it was $5. I think it wasn't anything, but it was in great shape. And I'm like, I'm starting to like the Eagles. I'm going to pick this up. And now, obviously, I have everything that the Eagles ever put out, and I'm a huge Eagles fan, but got this at an outdoor antique market. So there you go. There's my first album by 5 of my favorite bands, inspired by a video on Jeff Witcher's channel. I'll leave a link for that. Hopefully that was entertaining. I hope. I'd love to hear in the comments what your first record from some of your favorite bands are. Let me know. That's everything for me today, everybody. Catch you on the flip side.